All right, so I'm here to show you DaVinci Resolve 14. How many of you were at NAB and saw this? Just, oh, good number. Okay, excellent. So this is, as you may have already heard this evening, our biggest release ever. It's a huge release for us, and we couldn't be more excited. It's in public beta now, so you can download it and try it today if you haven't already done so. And by the time we get out of here, I think you're gonna want to go do that. By the time I get done with you. So it's our biggest release ever, and there are basically three really big things that we focused on. First was performance. It's up to 10 times faster than the previous version, the Resolve 12.5. The second thing that we did was we added a complete digital audio workstation to Resolve. So it's not just an NLE with a little bit of audio. It's actually an NLE and the world's best color corrector and a professional digital audio workstation all in one now. So it's like getting 3 high-end apps in one suite. And switching between the editing and the audio and the color is just a click away. So you never have to import, export, transcode, conform, or do anything like that. If you stay in the Resolve workflow, you're just really clicking from one tab to the next to switch disciplines. And then the third big thing that we added was collaboration. So we did a lot of work to enable multi-user collaboration tools so that you can have an editor, a colorist, their assistants, and audio and sound engineers all working in the same project at the same time. And I have my lovely assistant, Sean, here tonight, who's going to join me in this demo and when we get to the collaboration part. So I'm going to jump right in and start with just some basic stuff, because there's a lot of people here that are using different NLEs. So I'm just going to show you some of probably the less glamorous stuff first, and then we'll get into some of the sexy new stuff. So just if you're coming at us from another NLE, one of the most important things you'll probably want to know about is keyboard mapping. It's all customizable, and of course we have keyboard layouts for Final Cut, for Media Composer, for Premiere, or if your name is Sean, you can create your own. You can search for commands and customize them and change the keyboard shortcuts. So however you want to work, it's really easy to get into Resolve and start. In fact, if you're a Final Cut 7 user, you'll find that most of the keyboard shortcuts map directly to Final Cut 7's keyboard shortcuts. You know what? I'm a guy that likes gratuitous applause, and that was certainly appreciated. So keep it coming. That'll make it better. Another thing that we've added is live saving. So live saving will now just save everything as you do it, so you don't have to worry about saving. And should it crash, and this is a public beta, you won't lose any work. So that's a really cool new feature. There is a ton of other stuff under here. One of the things that I want to point out are proxies, which are under my general settings, where I'm going right here. Thank you. So a lot of discussion came up about 6K on a laptop and using proxies. So this is where we set our proxy options. You can choose your resolution. You can choose your format for your proxies, ProRes, DNX, all of that. And Resolve will automatically manage the relationship between your proxies and your online media, so you can switch back and forth at any time. So that's just a little bit of the basic sort of nuts and bolts of it. For the first time, if you're a new user, it will automatically take you to the edit page. And in Resolve, we have 5 pages in the application. And you can think of each of these pages as a dedicated interface for a specific task. So the edit page is where I am now, and the buttons are at the bottom of the screen. The media page is where we would ingest footage, get it onto our system. You can also import directly to the edit page if you want. But here on the top of the screen, you see all of the disks and drives that are attached to the system. And on the bottom of the screen is everything that's in my project. So you can see you've got metadata here. You can do column layouts. You can turn columns on and off. You can search, sort, sift based on columns, reorder them, save your own custom layouts. So all your sort of media in stuff happens on this page. The edit page, where we're going to spend a lot of time, is where we're editing. You've got your bins at the top left, source and record monitors, and your timeline. The color page is where we're going to do some color correction stuff in a little bit. And then we have this new page here, which is audio. It's called Fairlight. I'll tell you about that a little more later. And then our deliver page. Totally. All right. How many people are here to see the Fairlight stuff? All right. Awesome. So we're in this great like THX theater. It's going to sound amazing. We've got great speakers. I'm right here. Oh, All right, you'll find that I'm full of really bad jokes, so don't mind me. All right, so I'm just going to go here on my media pool is where we keep our bins, and there's a little sidebar that you can open and close, and you can switch between bins and timelines. And Steve mentioned earlier smart bins, so you can create a smart bin, which is basically a bin whose contents are populated based on metadata. So if I wanted to, say, look for keywords, I'm going to just scroll here. Let's say I had metadata with keywords and I had, something that had planes in it or whatever. If I had added metadata, clearly I haven't right now. It would create a bin that would find all the footage with planes. Or if you wanted to sort by scene, shot, or take, or even camera type, you could say all of my red footage goes in this bin. All of my Sony footage goes in this bin. That's actually important when we get to some color management stuff, because then you can just find all of the clips for a specific camera type and tell Resolve, these all came from my Blackmagic Ursa Mini camera, and it'll know how to handle color and manage those images. You can say, here's all my red footage, and likewise. So smart bins are a really great way to automatically organize your clips. So to edit, it's really straightforward. If you've ever used an NLE, you just double click. It is. There's a lot of commonality here between NLEs. So you double click a clip, it loads in your source bin, you mark an in and an out point with the I and the O keys, or you can use the buttons on the user interface, and then you drag it to the timeline, and you can drag it here to the program monitor. And what this is going to do is it gives you different choices of edit types that you can perform on a clip. So it's going to do this at the location of the playhead, with the exception of append at end, then it'll put it at the end of the timeline. Or you can, of course, just drag right into the timeline. So there are probably a million different ways that you can edit and trim in Resolve. And I'm just going to zoom into my timeline a little bit and just show you some of the basics. So in our regular mode, you can do a ripple or a roll or an extend or shorten. If I go into trim mode, you'll see the tools are context sensitive, so now it's rippling my timeline. As I do this, you can slip and slide as well. You get forward views. So basically, all of the core editing functionality, if you've never used Resolve, that you would expect to find in an NLE is in here. And I'm not going to have time to go over all these, but there are literally dozens of editing, trimming commands, and they're all under the edit, trim, timeline, and clip menus, which are purposely blurred out here, so you have to download it tonight and check it out for yourself. So sorry about the projector focus. So you've got all of these trim commands. We've got looping trim modes, so you can dynamically trim on the fly during playback. So it's, right, somebody asked about that. All right, Steve. So that's just a quick overview of the basic editorial stuff. So for our work this year with 14, I mentioned performance was a huge thing for us. So now when you're scrubbing with the timeline, it's instantaneous. It's very responsive. When I start playing back, JKL keys, there's no lag. It's extremely low latency. So when I am doing those looping trims, I see a frame that I want to trim on, I tap a key, and that's exactly the frame that I get. So no latency. It's very fast, forward and backward, through transitions and stuff. It stays right with you. We did a lot of work specifically in the area of H.264. So typically H.264 is a very processor-intensive format. We now support it with hardware acceleration, so if you're using H.264, you can see here that I've got 4 clips playing back at the same time on my iMac. I can go forward, backward, scrub through it all, and it just plays great. So the real key takeaway with 14 as opposed to previous versions of Resolve is that it's up to 10 times faster. So if you're on a laptop or an older computer, you're going to get great performance, and if you're on a more current system, the thing is going to fly. It's like a rocket. So that's a little bit about performance. Let me just switch my timeline here back to the other one. So other things that you can do, we can open, of course, bins into their own windows now. This is actually a new thing in Resolve 14, so you can have as many of these windows open. You can customize the way they look, the columns, and once you get everything the way you like it, you can now save your layout, your user interface layout as a preset. So whether you're working on 1 or 2 monitors, you can customize the windows and then have that all saved for you. Did somebody say sweet? Sweet. Love it. All right. So let me grab a clip here. I've got this clip in the Maldives. There's this new pop-up, this little overlay. As I mouse into the clip, you see this overlay pop up. And this lets me very quickly edit just the video or just the audio to my timeline. Isn't that cool, right? Thank you. I really like that one because it was my idea. The other thing is we now have track and clip colors. So as I drag, you can see it's taking on the color of the track that, that I've assigned. So you can define clip colors independent of track colors, and there's like a hierarchy, a ranking prioritization of those colors. And the colors are just a great way to organize your footage. So you might have all of your B-roll be one color, all of your sound effects or dialogue be another color. It's just a great visual organization tool. We've also added marker overlays to Resolve 14, and they're already on. So all I have to do is put my playhead over a marker, and you can see now in the top left of the source monitor, you get the name of the marker, the time, the duration, and the notes, which in this case is an awesome clip of water plane flying overhead. And here you have a crystal clear underwater shot. So the other thing that is really great about this is that if I go into list view here in my viewer, I get a little triangle that shows me my markers. So this is, thank you for clapping, because this is a really important thing. This now lets you basically have clips with multiple in and out points marked on it, because each marker can have a duration. So I can now edit just that section of the clip into my timeline, or maybe I want to do this section. So it's just a really, it's like subclipping without having to use subclips, right? So it's a really great feature. The other thing that's hey, over there in the peanut gallery, quiet. So I'm gonna go turn on audio overlays. This is another. This is actually a feature we added last year, but it's just a really cool one. You could see. Thank you. I love you guys. This is awesome. So this is really cool. You can see your audio waveform with your video, and I can actually zoom in on this a little bit. And this makes it really easy to find the beginnings and ends of sentences.
It was really important to go out and
so then I can mark my clips based on that. So really cool things. So while there are a lot of similarities between NLEs, there's also a lot of really unique things that you'll find in DaVinci Resolve 14 that I think are going to make your lives a lot easier and are going to really make it enjoyable to cut. You know, while I would say 12.5 was an awesome editor, 14 is now fast and it's enjoyable. Like you really can get in there and you can just work and work very quickly. So that's a little bit of that. We're going to talk about audio on the edit page for just a minute. So we've got some.
every shot was original.
So we've got some audio here, and I'm just going to open my new mixer, and there's the mixer. It's a little wide, so I'm going to just come down here and make this smaller. So you can see we've got this brand new mixer, which is part of the whole Fairlight integration that we did with Resolve 14. And then I'm just going to zoom in so we can check out a clip here. I've got a clip. If I open my inspector, you can see that I've got a clip equalizer now for every single clip in the timeline. So it's 4-band parametric EQ that I can use at the clip level. I can also do track level EQ. We're going to cover that in just a minute. But that's the clip EQ and the new mixer on the edit page. There's also now the ability, and let me just make my audio a little bigger. We're going to show audio waveforms. There is now the ability to do subframe audio editing. So, what? So let me just move that out of the way. So I'm going to zoom in all the way to, I'm going to turn something on. I'm going to turn on my playhead shadow, which is under my view menu. So is this a frame? This is like 5 frames. Okay. So there's this cool thing called a playhead shadow. And I'm going to just set it to 0 frames before my playhead and 1 frame after my playhead. And say that, okay, so the red area is 1 frame. And what you see now with our audio, we're not limited to the frame boundaries. We can edit within the frame. So if you get a piece of audio and a piece of video that's, say, half a frame out of sync, you can now fix that really, really quickly and easily. That's a good one. All right, so I'm going to do some more audio stuff in just a minute, but I'm going to switch to color for a second. Actually, before I do that, let me just cover a few more of the basic NLE sort of things. I'm going to find a good picture here. So we've got this clip. If you wanted to do anything like transformations and stuff, everything shows up in the inspector at the top right. You can keyframe just like that. You can also use the on-screen controls, so I might want to zoom it up at that point, and then maybe we just bring it to this point, and I'm going to zoom it down. So I can do all kinds of animations. I get motion paths. You can smooth these out with Bezier handles, and I'm not grabbing the handle, but so you can do all this animation right here on the edit page. The other thing that we give you that is really unique is a built-in curve editor right in the timeline. So right in context with your program, you can edit your curves. So I can select this one, and I can add a Bezier handle to this, and now we can smooth and ease our animations. So any parameter that you can animate here, you can turn the curves on and off, and you can see them right there in your timeline. It's pretty cool. Retiming is, let me find a good clip for retiming. So if I wanted to make this clip, faster, I could just right-click on it and then change clip speed, and you can automatically ripple the sequence. So if I say make this 200%, it's going to pull everything else in. So
once again,
now it's a little faster. So one of the things I want to show you, this is a really cool edit feature, actually. I'm going to just zoom into this. I'm going to find this source clip. So I've just shortened that source clip. Well, what if I wanted to edit another version of that clip into the timeline that was a different length? So this one's 8 seconds and 19 frames, and this one is however long it is. I don't know. But we have this really cool edit, which is called a ripple overwrite. And what this does is it replaces a clip of one length with a clip of a different length, and it automatically ripples the timeline, either extends or shortens the timeline, and does the right thing. Let me zoom out so you can see that happen. So it just replaced the clip, and it took as much space as it needed, and it closed the gap automatically. And that's a cool one. All right, I might think that some of these are more cool than you do, but once you try them, you're going to agree, I'm sure. So over to the color page. So the color page, instead of doing our color correction and some effects stuff, you can do a lot of effects on the edit page, actually, but instead of doing color correction on the edit page, we have a dedicated interface for color correction. So you can really dig into this rich set of features in an interface that is optimized for the task at hand, as opposed to sort of shoehorning color into a timeline interface. And what you're looking at is on the top, we have our viewer. On the right side at the top is the node tree, and you can think of the node tree as a flowchart. It's an image processing flowchart. So we apply a color correction or a filter or something to a node, then we add another node, and we do something else to it, so the image comes in at the left and it goes out at the right. Really straightforward. Here's our effects library here that I can turn on and off that has all of the Resolve effects built in. In the middle, you'll see a film strip with every clip in the sequence. This little blue and yellow bit is a little mini version of the timeline. And then all of the tools that you would use for color correction are at the bottom of the screen. There are palettes for raw controls, color matching, your standard wheels. And then in the middle, we have a bunch of curves, qualifiers, power windows for secondaries, tracking, keying, all kinds of stuff like that. And then scopes and keyframes at the bottom right. So that's just a little bit of a walk through the user interface for color. I'm just going to show you a couple of some of the newer features that we've added. So we have these things called Resolve effects. We work with third-party OpenFX plugins as well as our own plugins, which are called Resolve effects. And most of them are GPU accelerated. If they are, they have the little word GPU next to them. So you can drag and drop anything onto a clip and just play it back. And I'm just going to loop this and turn off the audio so you can see the effect. So really, really easy to do this. I'm going to show you one of the new ones that we've just added, which is really cool. How many of you shoot video with humans in it? Okay. Really? So what do the rest of you do? Cat videos? All right. So I don't know how well this works on animals, but we have this face refinement tool. And I'm going to hit Shift F now, and what Shift F does is it gets the rest of the user interface out of the way so that I can just focus on the image and the tool with which I'm working. So I'm going to click the Analyze button, and what this does is it automatically locates his eyes, his eyebrows, his nose, his chin, his cheeks, his face, and it automatically tracks it all for me. So if I wanted to, and I'm going to just show you the mask it created, that's the mask. So it automatically created a mask. It automatically found all his facial features. And you can, of course, go in and refine the mask and adjust this and stuff like that. But what this lets you do is, this is the original. I could smooth his skin out, and that might be a little... I'm not sure if you could see that with the projector smoothing it for us. You can do some really cool things here. So I can adjust his overall skin. I can decide how much detail I want to leave versus smooth, so you can really do some nice subtle refinements. You can also adjust independent areas. So I can color his face, or I can just go and do his eyes. So maybe I want to sharpen his eyes. I can sharpen his eyes up. I can brighten the whites of his eyes. And all right. So this is Brian Terwilliger, and this is Living in the Age of Airplanes, which is his documentary, and it's a fantastic documentary. He lives here in LA, and if he were here tonight, I wouldn't be doing this to his face. But he's an awesome guy, and it's a great film, so you should check it out. If he might have, maybe he was out a little late the night before and had too much to drink, so you can get rid of the bags under the eyes if you want. You can go in and retouch the lips separately if you want. You can adjust all of that stuff. You can do blush, forehead, cheek retouching, chin retouching. So the key here is that it's super fast and easy to do this. You don't have to manually make a selection, right? I mean, previously, if I wanted to do something like this, I'd have to go in and I'd be like, oh gosh, I got to draw something around his face, and now I got to clean that up and track it and do all that stuff. You could do all those things in Resolve before, but now it's just automated, and that is super cool. It's a really awesome feature. All right. So I'm going to show you, I think I'm going to show you the warper next. We got another cool one. So here is a shot of the mountains, and I've got the warper on it. There we go. So I'm just going to add points, and I'm going to make the mountain bigger. So you can see that I can just grab these points, I can make the mountain bigger, and that looks really awesome, except for the fact that I've now destroyed the bottom of the image. So when I shift click, I can add protection points, and everything below the red is not being warped, and everything above the red is being warped. That's the warper. If we look in the library, just going to blow through some of these really fast for you, just to show you some of the examples. We've got everything that you would expect. Blurs, there's a whole family of blurs, lens blurs, Gaussian blurs. There's even a tilt shift, which is a cool effect. We've got color space transformations. There's also things that allow you to correct problems. So we've got a dead pixel fixer, a debander. So if you've shot some video that has banding in the sky because you're using maybe a lower-end camera for some reason and not one of ours, you can fix that. So there's some great restoration sort of things in here. Sharpening filters. There's always the popular, let me find a good clip for this, lens flare, film grain, denting, warping, all kinds of stuff. So I can go in and I can apply a lens flare, and I can track that. And if you want, we have actually some presets, but you can create your own lens flares from scratch. So this is known as the Star Trek lens flare. This is known as the Star Trek Into Darkness lens flare. And then of course you can track these effects across the scene by using our tracker. So that's a quick overview of the color page. I'm not going to go over the wheels and stuff because I assume that a lot of you, if you're already editing and using it in NLE, you've probably done some level of color correction before with lift, gamma, gain, and offset. But all those core tools are, of course, there since Resolve, as you know, is known for its color correction. All right, so I'm going to switch projects. We're going to just mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to do some audio stuff, so don't do what you're going to do yet. And then we're going to collaborate and see how that all goes. All right, so this is, let me go to my edit page. So this is a show called Wrecked, and it's a parody on the television show Lost. Do you remember Lost? So super funny. It's on TBS, and it's I believe it's like their most popular show now. It's really great. I'm just going to close some of my interface to make the video a little larger. Just play a little bit of it back for you. Actually, I'll go full screen. Oh, I need my audio. Hold on. I muted myself earlier. That's that.
What the fuck? Holy shit, that guy's handsome. He's coming over here. Everybody look cool. All right, look.
You three okay?
No, I'm not okay. I don't have my phone. I'm very scared. My back is feeling very weird.
Breath in, one breath out.
All right, so anyway, it's really funny. Our friends at Digital Film Tree and TBS let us use this stuff for our demos, so we really appreciate it. But once, I had never seen it before, so once they sent me the scene, I was like, I gotta watch this. So I downloaded the first season, and it's really great. It's a lot of fun. So if you liked Lost, it's super fun. All right, so I showed you some of the audio stuff on the edit page. So we acquired a company about 8 months ago called Fairlight. And Fairlight has been known in the industry for extremely high-end audio installations. They're over at like NFL Films and NHK, massive consoles, super high-end digital audio workstation hardware and software. We acquired that company about 8 months ago. And we have worked super hard to take all of that and put it into Resolve. So the entire Fairlight audio suite is now built into DaVinci Resolve. In fact, at NAB, we were showing off the Fairlight audio consoles, and they were no longer running the Fairlight software. They're running DaVinci Resolve. So this is an amazing level of audio power in an editing application. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really like 3 apps in one, right? Professional editing, advanced color correction, and now this amazing digital audio workstation software. So we have a new page in the app, so I'm going to just switch to Fairlight. And this is my audio timeline. So as you can see, I've got in this case, I've got 12 tracks. I can play all this stuff back. I have my mixer here that I'm going to pull out. And we can make this, if you have a lot of tracks, you can use the small mixer for better screen real estate, or the full track mixer. All of this, we talked about subframe editing. I can actually edit down to the sample level if I want. So, for example, let me just show you a quick selection here. If I select a track in the channel strip in the mixer, it automatically highlights in the timeline as well. So here I am on track 5. We're just going to make this a little taller. And I'm going to just start zooming in. And now we are going to go all the way down to the individual sample level. And if I wanted to redraw this, I could just redraw the sound wave. So you're talking like 48K. So we're talking about 48,000 of these things every second. So you could really do some fine-grained, fine-tuning control here. You've really got amazing precision. So let me just zoom back out of this. So that's a quick look at just a little bit of the editing stuff. So the other thing that you may not have noticed, and let me just flip back to edit for a second, is if I put my playhead here, when I switch to color or to audio, my playhead is in exactly the same position. Whatever I have selected on the edit page is what I'm going to have selected on the color page or the audio page. So if you're working on a clip, you can just be at one click away to get to that same clip in that same spot in your program on the other pages. So it's really designed to speed up the workflow. So the mixer, so let's talk about channels. Right here I have 12 tracks in my project. The Fairlight has the power to work with up to 1,000 tracks. And with the Fairlight Audio Accelerator, which is hardware, you can do 1,000 tracks in real time with 6-band parametric equalization on every track, dynamics processing on every track, up to 6 plugins on every track. So you think about the numbers that we're talking about here. It's a massive amount of audio processing horsepower. On a desktop system, on a relatively current desktop system, you'll get maybe 50 or 60 tracks in real time, which is still quite a bit. So that's a little bit about the mixer. Here I've got my 12 tracks. I have an edit index here, or just an index rather, and this lets me just create sets of tracks that I want to see or hide. So if I just want to work on my dialogue, I can just work on my dialogue. If I want to work on my sound effects, I can just work on my sound effects. I can also view markers. I have a couple of markers here. It shows me the video. Let me turn that off. And then back over at the mixer, actually, I mentioned the EQ, so let me just double click on the EQ. This is the 6-band parametric equalizer. So this allows us to adjust the quality of the sound based on frequency ranges. And this is the track level. So I showed you the clip level one on the edit page. If you want to get back to the clip level, you can open the inspector, click on a clip, and you get the clip equalizer here as well as on the edit page. So the changes you make on the edit page are reflected here. So track and clip level here in the Fairlight page. All right, so that's EQ. Let's look at dynamics. So dynamics, we have an expander or gate. You've got a compressor, a limiter. All of this stuff is built right in. The panner, we work in both 2D and 3D sound spaces, and we also do automatic fold up and fold downs between sound formats, so I can go from stereo to 5.1 or 22.2 down to stereo, although that would be a weird one, but you can do all of that automatic folding up and folding down. All right, so this is the panner, so I can move the sound anywhere in 2D or 3D space. We actually have a hardware accessory for the consoles that lets you stick your hand in and move the sound in space. It's really kind of cool. So you literally put your hand in this box-like thing and just move the sound. You just grab it and position it where you want. What? It's cool. All right, let's talk a little bit about automation. Or let me do effects first. Oh, okay. So here's the effects library. No audio plugins are installed. I apologize. We work with third-party VST plugins, so like isotope waves and the like. So they'll all be accessible here. And we will support audio units on the Mac as well. It's not currently in the public beta. All right. So let's just assume I had added an effect here. You can go into trim mode and you can automate pretty much anything in the application. So I can automate my fader, my mutes, my pan, EQ. I can even automate plugin parameters. So any plugin parameter can be automated. And automation in audio speak is sort of similar to keyframes in video speak. It's basically changing a parameter over time. The key difference is with automation, like if you actually move a dial or a fader or a control, it literally records the movement as you do it. So it's not just like a keyframe based from point A to point B. It's actually recording the entire movement. So you can get really subtle, nuanced adjustments. All right. I can also use the marquee tool, and let me just turn this off. I can also use the marquee tool to select and just loop around a portion of a clip. So if I wanted to work on just this section of the clip, I could work on just this section. I'd just loop it and keep adjusting my EQ or my parameters for my effects and what have you. For monitoring, we can actually output to multiple sets of speakers simultaneously. So you might have a set of stereo speakers, you might have a set of 5.1, 7.1, you might be in a theater setup where you've got, a Dolby, thank you, Atmos, or like an IMAX theater or something, and we can actually drive all of those speaker sets with the accelerator hardware and breakout box. So you can adjust your monitor levels. There's a dim button, so if somebody walks into your studio and they want to talk to you, you can just dim the audio very quickly. There's also a complete set of meters, which I probably should have opened earlier, sorry. Let me just turn marquee off, and we'll just play a little bit. So you can see all of our metering. So, and all the meters are color-coded to match your track colors as well, so it's really easy to see them. You've got your main output here, and then you've got your video. And the video, actually, you can pop this out and put it wherever you want. So you can put that wherever you want. You can make it big or small. You can park it up in the corner like it is there by default. And you can resize all of these windows just however you'd like. So one of the things that we do is extensive busing and routing and submixing. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to create a new bus. So I'm going to just go to my bus assign. Actually, I'm going to create a bus. Okay, so I'm going to add a bus. And right now we have one main stereo output bus. I'm just going to add a submix. And we're going to give it a name. And let's say this was English, or maybe this was a film output and it was a 7.1 or a 5.1 or whatever. You could just define that submix, give it a color and a name, and then click on bus assign. And what this will do now is when I click on it, this shows me all of the available tracks in the project, and I can assign them to this specific submix. So if I'm working on a project in multiple languages, I can have all my dialogues, all my sound effects, I can have all my English dialogue go to this submix with the sound effects and the music. I can create one for French and have just the French dialogue and the sound effects and music go to that one. Basically, it allows you to master multiple versions or formats of the project all at once without having to have multiple projects for each different deliverable that you have. So once you go to the delivery page at the end of the process, you just select which ones you want to output with your final deliverable, and you're done. So in this case, we're going to assign all of our tracks to that bus. And now you can see up here, it's now appeared. So I've got S1 as my new submix that we added. And if I had spread this out a little bit on the UI, it would actually have the name of that bus there as well. So recording, I can't really do recording here, but as far as recording goes, this goes way beyond a simple voiceover tool that you find in most editing packages. We can record 96 tracks simultaneously. I know, right? You're on a sound stage with an orchestra with 40, 50 mics on all the different instruments. You could be recording all of that while you're monitoring 150 channels playing back at the same time and watching your video. So you can literally be recording the score for your television show and mixing it with your sound effects and dialogue live in the studio with DaVinci Resolve. Thank you. Now Sean is going to join the project. Notice at the bottom right of my screen I have some new icons now. So we're going to go over those in just a second. As soon as you're in, let me know.
Okay, I'm currently in yours. Let me switch.
All right. We're going to go into scene
2.
16.
Scene 16 it is.
All right. So you'll see that there are these little yellow icons. And see when I hover over it, it says Sean, because Sean is now in the project. If I go at the bottom right, you can see how many people are logged into the project. So there's myself and there's Sean currently. So when I look at my bins, you see the little yellow flag on that with Sean's name. So this is bin locking, and what this does is it allows Sean to work in a space where I can't overwrite his work. So he basically has ownership of that bin. He can change its contents, he can add stuff, he can delete stuff, he can add metadata, he can mark clips, he can do whatever he wants in there. I can't go in there and delete or change anything. I can go in and I can look at stuff and I can still use a clip in my timeline if I want, but I can't actually change anything because he owns it. Now, he can go in, let's say, go in and add something. Actually, yeah, go in and add a clip to that so we can show them that first.
Should I
So,
switch screen?
yeah, so go ahead.
See my
We're going to switch screens. So this is Sean's screen.
Ta-da! There we go. All right.
Okay. So there's Sean's screen.
So here I am in the bin. It's just
So they need to be
the
rescued.
media. Let's see what we got here.
All right. I think it's Alaska.
Yeah, it is Alaska, isn't it?
You're giving it away. Or just find any clip.
All right. Let's just go ahead and grab that.
Okay. So now we're going to switch back to my machine. So he's added. This would be great if we had two screens. But, okay, so see the little circular icon now on the top left here next to scene 16? This tells me that something in here has changed. So I can go and I can click on it and it refreshes. And I'm just going to sort these by name. And he's added a clip of a plane at the North Pole, which apparently is flying on a rescue mission to this South Pacific desert island to save these people. So I'm going to...
As you would.
As you would, right. So, I also, in addition to bin locking, there's also timeline locking. So I'm in audio demo 1, and this is my timeline, and you can see I can move stuff around and I can do whatever I want with it. If we switch to Sean's computer, and he goes into, and wait till it comes up. All right, so see his list now shows the little red
There I am.
icons. the little red guy is me, and he's going to switch to audio demo 1. And when he does, you'll see that he can't actually edit anything there. He can't delete, he can't move anything, he can't change anything. And the little badge at the top right of his screen in the viewer, the little red badge, tells him that that's my timeline. All right? So he can copy stuff out and paste it into his own timeline if he wants, but he can't change the timeline that I'm actively working on. All right? So that's that. Now I'm going to
Back to you.
go back to me. And once that comes up, we've got our little main HDMI covering it. There's a little icon down here with a chat bubble that I'm going to click on, and this gives me a chat client. So I can say, hey, can you pull some selects? And I just sent Sean a message. Now, this is a private network, and this is not using iChat or Skype or anything, so there's nothing going over the internet here. It's all completely secure, resolve to resolve. So you can see my chat icon just turned red, which means I have a response. So he says, sure, what would you like? And I can color correct. And why don't you step into color as well, please?
Absolutely.
And pick a clip like, 8 or 9 or something. So Sean is now color correcting clip 8, and you see the little badge here? It shows up that he's color correcting. Now he's going to make some changes to that clip, and when he's done making changes, he'll step out of that clip, and then you'll see that I'll get a little update icon once he's done, and do something really ugly.
Gotcha.
That's really obvious.
Something demonstrative, yes.
Yes.
And
So I'm looking at that clip. That's the clip he's working on. I can look at it. I can't change it or touch it because he's working on it right now. So
off the clip.
he's just off the clip, so I get a refresh icon, so I can just click back on it, and now you can see he's very quickly done a nice little bleach bypass and a vignette. Good job. The really cool thing is that I can be editing on my timeline while he's coloring. In fact, you can have multiple colorists working in the same timeline as the editor. One editor can own a timeline at a time, because only one person can change the timing and the clips and everything, but you can have multiple editors simultaneously color correcting while the editor is working. And as they do their work, you just refresh the timeline and you see it. Sound does not happen simultaneously. What we would do with sound is what I'm about to show you here. I'm going to say, you know what, Sean, I want you to, whether it's sound or whether it's editing, maybe I want him to edit part of this sequence for me, maybe I want to send it to sound, the process is the same. I'm going to just make a copy of this timeline really quick. Just give it a second. And then I'm going to drop this into his folder, which is demo 2, we'll say. And so now we're going to switch to Sean. And
we're going to whistle while we wait.
we're going to wait for
All
the
right, there
projector.
it is.
So Sean's going to go now into his demo 2 folder. And it's going to update. And he's going to see
There it
the new
is.
timeline that I just dropped from him. And I'd probably send him a chat or name it something, reasonable. And just go ahead and make some changes to that. So whether this was a sound editor working on a timeline or another picture editor, the process is identical. So he's going to make a bunch of changes. He's going to maybe delete some clips, trim some clips, change some lengths, whatever. It's all good. Don't worry about the auto selects.
Here, I don't want to
There we
throw
go.
anything out of sync. Here we go. Let's just go ahead and trim that up.
So he's just making a couple of quick edits. Did I tell you how much I like this show?
Yeah.
And then just delete like 5 clips at the end there. Clearly he's a much better colorist than editor.
That
right.
stings.
All right, y'all done there?
I'm finished.
All right, so go ahead and step out of that. I'm going to switch back to my machine. Now, I'm in the original timeline that I sent him, right? He has made an update to the timeline, so I'm going to go and look at it. And I'm going to use our timeline comparison tool. So, I know this is a cool one. So this basically will show me an index of the changes he's made, but it also gives me a visual representation. So I can see he deleted this clip, and I can choose to accept that change. I can accept and reject any changes that he makes, and it's all visual. The other thing is, let me move this down a little bit. So white ones are changed. They've either moved, white is, I think position is changed, red is deleted or added, green is added, red is deleted.
We can do both, actually.
Well, I can look at both. So we can move the playhead position and see both timelines side by side. So this is a phenomenal tool for merging work than when multiple people are working in the same project at the same time. So that is a quick look at collaboration. So collaboration is really about bin and timeline locking. It's about being able to chat and communicate with your team, and it's about being able to merge and compare changes. You can actually use this timeline comparison tool when you're just working solo on your own stuff. You can maybe have a version you cut yesterday and a version you cut today, and you want to say, oh, you know, the client asks, what's the difference? And you can show them. So really, really awesome collaboration tools. The collaboration tools, as I said, we're just on 2 iMacs here with an Ethernet cable between them. And the way we're doing it is we have identical media directories on both machines. So if you're in a small studio and you just want to have local storage, as long as your file paths are exactly the same, we can do the collaboration. Or if you're in a larger studio, you can be on a storage area network and you can have servers and all that other stuff and sort of do the big iron version of this if you'd like. But it's really a scalable solution, and it really changes the way post-production is going to be done, we think, in this town. Because for the first time, you can now take what has really been largely a linear process, right? Edit, and then send it off to grading, and then send it to sound, and then conform, and all this other stuff, right? There's no more conform. You don't have to, you know, have somebody spend an hour or 2 or a day conforming a project or importing and exporting and losing data and rebuilding effects and all that stuff. You're a single click away from it if you're a solo guy working, or gal working on a system, or if you're in a studio, you can all just be working at the same time. So that, I think, is the game changer for DaVinci Resolve 14, is collaboration. So between that, the huge performance gains we've made, all of the cool new effects and all the editing tools, and then, of course, the audio, we think that this is really going to be a piece of software that you're going to love. So I hope that you will go and download it tonight and try it. There is a free version, and there is a studio version. DaVinci Resolve Studio used to be $9.99. We just repriced it down to $2.99. So, what? So here's what $2.99 gets you. $2.99 gets you all of the cool effects and filters, like the warper that I showed you and the face refinement tool, the film grain stuff, denoise, which we have awesome denoising, optical blur and mist effects. You get stereoscopic 3D support. You get all the collaboration stuff I just showed you in the studio version, and the ability to output at resolutions above Ultra HD. So if you're doing 4K, like serious 4K stuff, you need the studio version. The free version basically is limited to 60 frames per second Ultra HD resolution max. The studio version goes up to 120 frames per second, actually. So that's the difference between free and studio. Basically, a lot of the effects and plugins and filters, and the collaboration especially. But you get all of the same editing, color, and audio capabilities in the free version as you do in the studio version. So really, really great pricing, we think. It makes it really competitive with the price of software today. You know, everybody's renting or licensing or subscribing and stuff. So we're $2.99, you own it, and that's it. No monthly charges or anything like that. So